And we're back with another episode of Before You Buy, that show where we give you some straight-up gameplay and our first impressions of the latest games releasing. Today we're taking a quick first look at WWE 2K20, another one. We cover these games every year, and I'll say it once, I'll say it again. These new modern 2K wrestling games are nowhere near the fun style of the classic wrestling games from, the N64 era, even up to PS2 and eventually 360. These modern 2K games are kind of a completely different breed, more simulation style focused, and it's taken me 3 games now to finally accept this concept and embrace it, because at its core, it can be fun once you learn it. Now, with these games, every year for the past few years, they add tiny tweaks to this combat system and add and remove and upgrade various modes and features. This year, like last year, does that to varying levels of success and failure. Overall, I found last year's outing, 2K19, a way more enjoyable experience, but I'll get to why. So what's new? First there are little tweaks to controls and moves. Some grappling position and standing position have been streamlined. Picking up objects and climbing have more differentiation, and also the counter reversal button has been moved from a shoulder button to the Y or triangle button. Now, it sounds like a small change, but I really appreciated that, and I feel like it's a bit of a game changer. But really, on the gameplay side, most of the tweaks were done with the intention of the player doing less moves by mistake. Unfortunately, I really still ran into the occasional issue here and there, targeting doesn't always feel right, and a lot more moves feel like a total up-in-the-air crapshoot of whether or not you'll pull them off, at least compared to last year. Now, there is also an assist mode, which I will say props to that. You can enable it where the game will make the right choice of targeting and attack style for you. These games can be a little tricky to pick up, so I think this is a welcome feature, at least for new players trying to learn the ropes, because there is a little bit of a learning curve, so I appreciate that. Now, this time around, the main story-focused MyCareer mode centers around a brother and a sister. You custom create both the brother and the sister, and alternate between the two throughout the scenarios. In an interesting presentation option, they kind of show the characters close to the top of their quick rise to stardom, and then have them kind of looking back on their start and their career choices until, further going forward from there. It's fun, it's a good way to kick it off, it's lighthearted, and it portrays the brother and sister as rebellious wrestling nerds, even as they're getting famous, and not just kind of like jocks looking for fame. It's interesting, it's fun, it's lighthearted, and it's definitely a little fighting with my family inspired. I appreciated it, because last year's career mode put me to sleep. Here, I found it interesting enough. It's great to have the option of male or female as well. Plus, the in-between periods are a little bit more streamlined, less aimlessly wandering around and talking to lifeless characters, and more just clicking on them and exchanging a quick dialogue, which is still often lifeless, but, it gets you more right into the action. There's plenty of customization involved. Of course, there's a character skill tree, there's podcasts to listen to. There's plenty of content if you're a diehard wrestling fan. And that just goes for the creation suite in general. There are some omissions here and there, create a finisher isn't here, but just the amount of stuff you can do, the amount of stuff you can make is really, really impressive. And I always do want to give them props for that, because I love that stuff, and I feel like that's a dying thing in games. Now, on the flip side, I don't really know what happened here, but the career mode itself looks and performs very badly. Career mode in particular, and I hate to use this phrase, I really hate to use this phrase, people abuse it, but I think I really mean it here. It looks like an earlier PS3, Xbox 360 era game. Textures are low res and flat. There are not really any effects, barely any lighting, and characters clip and judder all weird with seemingly little anti-aliasing. Now, I can totally deal with graphics that aren't state-of-the-art. I absolutely can. But here, it's distracting, and to me personally, it does actually detract from the experience a bit, especially considering previous versions of the game have looked better. Now, thankfully, actual ring stuff and general gameplay doesn't look as bad, although I've noticed that fighters are starting to look goofy, and many don't feel like they have much variation. I mean, even The Rock, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, to quote our guy over here, Tom Johnson, they've been putting this dude in games for years, and they got it wrong this year. You had a lot of practice. What happened? And really, with not enough of variation, I think that they should focus the roster a bit, However, I will say it's pretty cool that after sitting it out for a while, Hulk Hogan is back in the game, so there's that. And Showcase Mode is in full force this year to highlight the WWE 4 Horsewomen and all of their glorious moments, complete with the real-world documentary stuff. I like Showcase Mode a lot. Pretty much always have had since they've been doing these, and I really like the way they specifically highlight certain fighters and their careers, and I'm happy it's here this year, and you know, I just want to applaud that. It's a good thing to play through if you're a wrestling fan. Towers is also fleshed out a little bit with a lot to play through, as well as like a Roman Reigns story arc attached to it. Universe Mode is here, again, a mode I'm kind of always just skeptical of for microtransaction reasons, but I don't know, if it's your thing, it's back. I prefer GM mode and what that, you know, the differences with that, but that's just me. Mixed tag match is now in the game, and from what I've seen, that mode can just be crazy chaos and kind of fun. Thankfully, if you just want to jump into a ring match, there's so many options from ladders, Money in a Bank, cage, one-on-one, tag. There's so much to do here still. And of course, you get your online offerings, which, to be honest, I didn't get to spend too much time with, but the online lobby system does make a triumphant return after being absent, and I'm happy it's here just for the sake of player control and choice. Now, despite having so many modes, pretty robust character customization, and the My Creation suite, more stuff to play and seemingly updated stuff and playlists, the stories, the longer tower modes. Somehow, despite all of this, the game just feels rushed. From a technical aspect, as much as I said matches look fine, on PS4, I had quite a few issues with characters clipping right through the ropes or falling through the mat. And also just animations not looking so hot. Especially weird considering most of them just carry over from last year. I mean, some of the feel, the presentation, and the look feels like a step down from last year, and I suspect it's partially because of the development issues and a team change. Now, this footage is all on PS4 Pro, but I also want to point out that from what I've seen, the PC version out there is an absolute mess. Players have been having tons of issues with far more horrendous glitches going on mid-match and crashing and frame rate problems. That's crazy considering it can barely hold it together on consoles. This stuff needs to be fixed ASAP. Even with all the new stuff and a much more interesting MyCareer, I'd still take 2K19 over this year. I definitely recommend that one to people, at least until this game gets cleaned up and fixed. I've seen other players reporting issues about more technical stuff, gameplay-wise about the game, but I'm more of a casual fan. I'm not a 2K expert, so I can only talk about my experience, and my experience here is just kind of a resounding, you know, just a big meh. I really hope they can pull it together and seriously patch and upgrade this version of the game, or at the very least regroup and turn it around for, you know, the inevitable next year's outing. Still, that's where we're at with 2K20 right now. Like I said, just some quick first impressions. I do want to hear from you guys down in the comments what you think if you're playing this game. Definitely let me know what kind of wrestlers you're making, because I love making stupid ones and showing you guys. But if you are more of a hardcore fan, I would like to know what you think. I'd like to know what platform you're playing on, what you think of Showcase, what you think of the fighter roster in general, and if you have issues or compliments about the gameplay itself. Let's talk about anything WWE 2K20 down in the comments. But if you enjoyed this video, clicking the like button is the best way you can help us out. We'd really appreciate that. And if you're new, consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell because we put out videos every single day. But hey, as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.